Welcome all to our next class. Now we'll see last three types of attacks. First one is man in the middle attack. Uh, this attack is somewhat similar to the previous method we have seen. There is session hijacking. In session hijacking, actually, a hacker hijacks or steals the session ID of an ongoing session, and he tries to get all the information passed between the client and the server. But in the case of man in the middle attack, he tries to steal all the information. That means he eavesdrop. Eavesdrop means he tries to get all the information on the way to and from the client and web server. And actually, by doing so, we can say that the actual communication link between the client and the server is lost, and a new communication link is through the attacker. You can see this scenario here in this figure. A user actually tries to connect with the web server using an original connection that is shown above. But once an attacker, a man in the middle attacker, comes into this communication, actual communication is actually lost, and every communication reaches the man in the middle. Thus, he get all the information passed to and from user and web server. So it's a type of cyber attack where a malicious actor inserts him or herself into a conversation between two parties and impersonates both parties and gains access to information that the two parties were trying to send each other. Okay, without knowing the presence of this man in the middle, this server and the client, they communicate each other, but all communication reaches this man in the middle. So, man in the middle attack allows a malicious actor to intercept, send and receive data meant for someone else or not meant to be sent at all, and he can do like that also. A man in the middle can act either as a client as far as the server is concerned, and similarly he can act as a server as far as a client is concerned. So client receives messages from this man in the middle, but the client thinks that the message originally comes from the web server. Similarly, web server also get confused by the messages sent by the man in the middle. Web server also thinks that this message has been already actually sent by the client. Thus, this man sitting in the middle fools both client and web server. Man in the middle is a type of eavesdropping attack that occurs when a malicious actor inserts himself as a relay or proxy into a communication session between people or systems. Now, this attack exploits the real-time processing of transaction, conversations, or transfer of other data. So, this man, he involves in all the type of communication happening between the client and the server, and this attack allows attackers to intercept, send and receive data never meant to be for them without either outside party knowing until it is too late. So the presence of this um, man in the middle will be undetected for a long time. By that time, this man, the attacker in the middle, might have stolen almost everything, uh, every vital information regarding the user and the web server by impersonating himself as a user or a web server. Okay, the one of the main tools used for such a kind of man in the middle attack are Ettercap, K9able, and DSNIF, etc. So whenever you get any tool from the internet to do any kind of these attacks, you must not try it out on real time. You can do some kind of simulation if it is available in the tool. Otherwise, you should never go for real time attacks. Why? Because it is a violation of cyber laws in our country or in everywhere. This cyber law exists, so you must not do real time experiments with any of these tools. And next one is dictionary attack. One similar kind of attack we have already seen, that is brute force attack. Okay, in brute force attack, an hacker tries all the possible combinations of a password uh, by inspecting the user's activity or his personal information like name, phone number, etc. But in the case of dictionary attack, the attacker concentrates on words in the dictionary. That means persons are tend to give dictionary words as their passwords. By exploiting this behavior, this kind of hacker, dictionary attacker, they tries all the dictionary words in order to get the real password of a user. So dictionary attack, it's a method of breaking into password protected computer or server by systematically entering every word in a dictionary as a password. So there is a chance for getting the correct password. There is a chance. Okay. A dictionary attack can also be used in an attempt to find the necessary key necessary to decrypt and encrypt a message or document. So it can attack a password protected computer or he can steal any data encrypted or encrypted by the user using any dictionary word. So using a dictionary word as a password is not at all a good idea. It is not at all a convenient method. It is not at all a recommended thing. We had seen in brute force attack itself what are the different types of criteria we have to take care of while setting a password. So we must take care of all those things. Instead, for simplicity, you should never choose a dictionary word as a password. So those attacks work because many computer users and business insist on using ordinary words as passwords. Dictionary attacks are rarely successful against systems that employ multiple word phrases. Nowadays, it is not possible to see a dictionary word as a password in most of the systems. Almost every system insists the user to select a password based on certain criteria. So having dictionary word as password is a chance of having dictionary word as password is very less nowadays. Now the countermeasures of this dictionary attack are delayed response. Okay, now a dictionary attacker, he actually tries all the possible words in the dictionary as password, but if our system is it takes some time, 1 or 2 minutes to respond, then the attacker will get disappointed. Why? Because he has to try many passwords in order to get the correct password. So if after entering one possible password, if it is wrong, then our system, if our system take 1 or 2 minutes to respond to say that this password is wrong and please enter the new correct password. If such a delay is there in our server's response, then our hacker will get disappointed soon. Why? Because in an hour, if our server takes 2 minutes to respond, then in an hour he can try only 30 passwords, so that his attacks will not be severe. He will easily get disappointed and he will actually give up that his attempt. Okay, he will withdraw himself from that attempt. That is one possible solution for our for counter uh, counter attack this dictionary attack, but that is not feasible always. Even if we give the correct password, if the system takes 1 or 2 minutes to respond, then it is it is not a good system. Okay. Now the second one is that strengthen password requirements. Okay, so that we already know. As part of brute force attack, we have seen what are the criteria we have to take care of while setting a password. And the third one is failed login attempts logout. That we can see in almost all systems nowadays. Even in phone, if you try your password or a pattern locked 3 or 4 times, or even fingerprint or face recognition system, if you get 3 or 4 times if you get failure in consecutively 3 or 4 times, then the system, the mobile phone or the computer system will get locked for a certain amount of time, a preset time. So that is a good way of preventing or getting rid of this attack. Now next one, disable root login for remote connections. You may be knowing that remotely we can log in into many systems. There are many tools available. So if you have a server or something which need more security, then we should never allow remote login into that particular system, or root login. At least root login must not be given as a uh, remote connection mechanism. Okay, we should not allow users to log in into root login from distance or through remote login connections. So these are the various remedial measures or counter measures for counter attacking or dictionary attacks. And the last type of attack that is discussed in your syllabus is replay attack. Okay. From this figure, you may understand the working of replay attack. A user and a server, they are communicating through an authenticated way. But an attacker, he captures the network session packets of the conversation. He also listens to this conversation, and if he gets the packet sent by user to server or from server to user, he gets some information if the packet is not encrypted well, and he uses that particular information to impersonate himself as a user or a web server. We could see a similar kind of attack in um, man in the middle attack, and similarly session hijacking method also. Okay. But here this replay attack, here this attacker, he sends the information to the server by impersonating himself as a user. Similarly, attacker sends information to user by impersonating himself as a server. Okay. So replay attack occurs when a cyber criminal eavesdrops on a secure network communication, intercepts it, and then fraudulently delays or resends it to misdirect the receiver into doing what the hacker wants. So whenever a user sends some information to the server, that information reaches the server. Why? Because this communication is direct from user to server, but the attacker, he always listens to this communication and he captures the message, and if he succeeds in decrypting that message, he will get the message, and he will alter that message, and he may include some malicious codes too into that packet, and he sends the same to the server. Server has already received one message from user, the same user, but server gets the information again. So there is a chance for getting one information twice or thrice. Why? Because of the network traffic or network policies exist between the user and the server. There is such a chance. Usually the server neglects the delayed packets, but if server fails to neglect such delayed packets, then this message sent by the attacker may reaches the server, and server thinks that it is actual message sent by the user, and it may um, process it, and if some malicious code is included in that packet, then it affects the working of the server soon. Similarly, the same kind of attack may be faced by the user too. So during replay attacks, the intruder sends the sends to the victim the same messages as was already used in the victim's communication. The message is correctly encrypted, so its receiver may treat it as a correct request and takes action decided by the intruder. So the same thing happens to the user also. He got the actual information from the server, but after some time he gets information from the attacker, but attacker himself impersonate as a server. So user thinks that it is information sent by the server again, so he processes it by thinking that it's a genuine packet, and finally user will be trapped. The attacker might either have eavesdropped the message between two sides before, or he may know the message format from his previous communication with one of the sides. The message may contain some kind of secret key and be used for authentication. So all these kinds of things happens. That means attacker succeeds in eavesdropping the message only because user or server has not encrypted it well using secured encryption methods. That is one major problem with communication, which does not provide any encryption technique. And as countermeasures, in countermeasure you can see we must use right method of encryption. Strong encryption methods are to be adopted in order to prevent this kind of eavesdropping. And even though message is eavesdrop, that means stolen by the hacker should not succeed in reading the data. He should never decrypt the data. Okay. Unless the message is decrypted, it is of no use. Now the second type of countermeasure is both sender and receiver should establish a completely random session key. Okay, so which is a type of code that is only valid for one transaction, can be used again. In session hijacking, we had seen that the hacker steals the session ID from the cookies. So such a session ID is not stored anywhere, even in cookies. Then session hijacker cannot steal the session key of the session which is ongoing. So we can prevent these kinds of attacks by randomly selecting session key and without repeating the key for another session, or without storing the session key anywhere in client or server. And next type of counter attacking method is that use timestamps on all messages. We know that in this kind of replay attacks, this attacker takes some time in order to modify the message and to transfer the message to either user or server. So this user or server, he gets the duplicate message after getting the original message. So if you have timestamp on all these information, timestamp in the sense the time at which the data is generated. So if user generated the data at a particular time, let it be 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., and he sends the information to the server. The server receives at 10:01. Then he thinks that 1 minute is necessary to get the data transfer from user to server. It is okay. Now, by the way, this attacker has eavesdropped this message, and he has altered the message and he sent it to the server. Now the server receives the message from the attacker at 10:02 or 10:03. Now the server can understand that this user has sent already message to the same message to the server, and it has reached at 10:01. Now I am getting the same message at 10:02. That means it is not an authenticated one. I can neglect it. The server can simply neglect it. Now the last method is another method to avoid becoming a victim is to have a password for each transaction. That is also an experimentable one. For each transaction, a password set by the compromised by both parties will be used as a authentication mechanism. and that's only used once and discarded. So one time password or something similar can be used for authenticating a communication. So using one time password for all each and every communication is not at all feasible, but even then for sending or for passing critical information we can use passwords. So this password ensures that even if the message is recorded and written by an attacker, the encryption code has expired and no longer works. So that's all about all possible kinds of attacks that your syllabus deals with. Now we will see a summary of all these kinds of attacks. Denial of service attack. It prevents authorized users from accessing network resources. The attack is usually accomplished through excessive use of bandwidth, memory, and CPU cycles. And distributed denial of service attack on a host from multiple servers or computers. Similarly, buffer flow attack. Its main purpose is to insert executable code into area of memory that elevates attackers' permission to the level of an administrator or the program owner or creator. Ping of death. The attacker creates ICMP packets to be larger than maximum 65,535 bytes, which causes the recipient system to crash or freeze. Most systems today are not affected by this exploit, so it's an older method. Then man in the middle attack, where a malicious code actor inserts him or herself into a conversation between two parties, impersonate both parties and gains access to information that the two parties were trying to send to each other. Similarly, dictionary attack is a method of breaking into password protected computer or server by systematically entering every word in a dictionary as a password. A dictionary attack can also be used in an attempt to find the key necessary to decrypt an encrypted message or document. Then replay attack. A replay attack occurs when a cybercriminal eavesdrops on a secure network communication, intercepts it, and then fraudulently delays or sends it to misdirect the receiver into doing what the hacker wants. And finally, the brute force attacks. Brute force attack is guessing a user ID or password combination on a service that attempts to authenticate the user before access is granted. By that, we wind up all the topics coming under module 1, and the next class we will see the topics coming under module 2. Okay.